Pam.
And I'm Tracy.
And we're here today to talk about potatoes. In particular, today we're going to be making a dish of mashed potatoes with a mushroom sage gravy.
Cool, sounds delicious. Sounds like the perfect comfort food.
You like potatoes?
Yes, especially on a cold winter day.
Me too. One of my all-time favorites. We obviously have it for holidays like Thanksgiving, but we have it about once a week too.
Nice, I'm coming to your house. So we have lots of potatoes on the counter today.
We've got a couple of different types here. When you go to the grocery store, you'll see purple potatoes and yellow potatoes. And of course, these are the very common russet potatoes, and these are red skin potatoes. Now, I've made mashed potatoes out of most of them, and they're all delicious. So if you see potatoes on sale, grab them. You can make a wonderful mashed potato dish with them.
How about this recipe, though?
So this one, I have a favorite. Today we're going to be using our russet potatoes because they make a wonderful fluffy and creamy mashed potato. Now the red potatoes I generally buy when I'm making potato salads or something where I want the potato to hold its shape while I'm stirring it up with the other ingredients.
Oh, and I didn't even know that's why I bought them when I make the parsley potatoes for my family. They're hot, but when I'm stirring everything in,
yeah, you don't want them to fall apart and get all mushy.
Right.
Right. So today we're going to be using russet potatoes. But you know, I've talked to some people who have said, well, gee, I don't eat potatoes. They're fattening or they're not good for me. And what do you have to say to people like that?
it's a real shame because potatoes have everything you need to live on with the exception of water and B12. They are a wonderful protein source. They've got fiber. They've got all the vitamins and minerals. And they've got the satisfying energy-producing carbs that we know are healthy for us. So I think we need to eat more potatoes.
I'm with you.
So let's get started.
Okay.
I'm hungry.
So this is so easy. If you've made mashed potatoes in the past, and for all our omnivore friends out there, I know you're used to adding milk or cream or butter. Well, today we're not going to be using butter or any of those dairy products. Instead, we're going to make things creamy with a nice soy milk. And this happens to be my favorite brand because it's only got soybeans and water and nothing else, no funny chemicals.
Nice.
So all we have to do,
We're going to help?
Yes, please.
All right.
We're going to chop up our potatoes just into some chunky sizes.
Kind of like that?
Yeah, kind of like this. And then we're going to put enough water in the pot to cover them with water.
Now, if I make them too small, not a problem?
That's not a problem at all. They might just cook a little faster.
Cook faster. Okay.
I'll get our pot.
That's good. Let's see if I can manage not to injure myself.
Yes. Now here you see one that's got a little bit of a black mark on it. I'm just going to chop that off and throw that little piece in our compost bowl.
Nice.
We recycle everything, except the ones that fall on the floor. We'll leave that one for sale. Forgot about it.
How long does it take to make this whole recipe, do you think?
You know, we're going to cook the mushroom gravy at the same time that the potatoes are cooking, so the whole thing will come together in less than 30 minutes.
Do you want all of these cut?
Yeah. In fact, that's a good point. I tend to buy organic potatoes because you notice we're not peeling these, so the skin is going to be part of the recipe. There's vitamins and fiber involved in that, so we don't want to lose that. So since I'm using the skin, I try to buy organic, but you don't have to do that. That's not your thing.
No injuries.
Beautiful.
There we go.
All right, now all we do is cover this with enough water just to cover the potatoes, and we'll put it on to boil for about 20-25 minutes, and they'll be nice and fluffy and ready to mash.
Great. We're going to
Hand
do that,
water?
and we can get started on the next phase.
Sounds good.
Cold water?
Doesn't matter. Whatever comes out fastest. So while the potatoes are cooking, we can do our mushroom sage gravy. I love mushrooms. I've always loved mushrooms. And you were telling me the other day about some interesting nutritional facts about mushrooms.
Absolutely. Most breast cancer tumors are estrogen receptor positive, which means they respond to estrogen. And what researchers found was in postmenopausal women with breast cancer tumors, there's not as much estrogen circulating around in their bodies, and they found that 70% of breast cancer tumors found the ability to synthesize their own estrogen from the testosterone in our body utilizing the enzyme aromatase. And what researchers found was a simple white button mushroom was the most effective aromatase inhibitor. and that just 5 white button mushrooms a day really helps to prevent the estrogen production that these tumors are attempting. So you never know when you're going to find some really effective.
Fantastic. Well, these are the white button mushrooms that you'll find in the store. These already came sliced. I did rinse them off a little bit, and they're ready to go. So what we're going to use for this mushroom gravy, this is so easy. We're going to cook up the mushrooms until they get nice and soft and release their juices into the skillet. And then
Would you like me to do that now?
Yes, please.
All
Let's
right.
do that.
Do I need to add water or just put it in the skillet?
Just put it in the skillet. I'm going to show you a trick, Tracy, for cooking up mushrooms without any oil. Now this happens to be a non-stick skillet, but you don't need one because this is going to serve our purpose. We're just going to put the lid on.
With nothing but the mushrooms in there?
Nothing but the mushrooms in there.
Okay.
And as they cook in there, their juices are going to be released. That juice is going to settle back into the bottom of the skillet and make a nice broth from the mushrooms.
And so I don't have to stir it if I have the lid?
Right, exactly.
Oh, perfect. Then I can watch you make the slurry.
Okay, so we'll make that. We'll add the slurry to this, and then all those mushroom juices will just be incorporated into our gravy.
And you're doing this while the potatoes are cooking so that everything is compacted time-wise.
Yes, exactly.
How long does it take to make this from start
From
to finish?
start to finish, we usually have dinner on the table in 30 minutes.
So it would be great for a weeknight.
Any weeknight, right. This is how you make a cornstarch slurry, which is how you can thicken any sauce that you're going to cook, like our mushroom gravy. My general rule of thumb is 2 cups of water to 2 tablespoons of cornstarch.
And you prefer cornstarch instead of some of those other arrowroots and
right, and the only reason I do is because I know that when the liquid boils, it will then thicken. Arrowroot is a little bit more fragile, and if you take it to the boiling point, then it can unthicken, and I'm just not that attentive to my cooking.
And I'm not that good at cooking, so I think I better stick with the cornstarch.
So we're going to add our 2 tablespoons of cornstarch.
And it's nice. It dissolves nicely, doesn't it?
It does. But what you'll find is, if you mix this up and then set it aside for a few minutes while you're waiting for your mushrooms to cook, sometimes the cornstarch will settle out into this clump at the bottom. So make sure you always give it a stir right before you put it into the cooked mushrooms. Alright? So that's it. This, once it comes to a boil with our mushrooms, is going to make a nice thick gravy. Let's get back over to the skillet and pull it together. So you can see the steam coming out of here. Let's see what we've got.
Wow.
Oh, look at that.
I wouldn't have thought. I always added a little bit of water with my mushrooms.
Yep, and they have a lot of water in them, so we don't need to do that. So now, let's add our slurry. We'll stir at the bottom here to pick up anything that might have settled out. We'll add our sage. I'd say maybe a half a teaspoon.
I guess you can always add more later.
You can always add more later, but it's really hard to take it out.
Now, what kind of heat? Should it be high heat, medium heat?
I cook an awful lot of things on medium or medium high.
Okay.
If you find it's taking too long and you're in a hurry, crank it up a little bit. It won't hurt anything.
Now, since the potatoes have protein and carbs, and it's a starch, really, to make a complete meal, we could just add a green vegetable.
I'm glad you said that. We happen to grow a lot of green beans in our gardens every year. And
there they are.
There they are. So every fall in summer we're doing a lot of canning of green beans, so I pulled out one of our green beans. Now of course you can buy green beans canned in the grocery store, you can find them frozen. Do you have a favorite?
I prefer frozen because even though fresh and frozen have been determined to be nutritionally equivalent, you never know how long it's taken from the green beans to be picked and travel to your grocery store and sit in your grocery store and then sit in your refrigerator, so it's just as easy and convenient to pop some frozen ones.
I'm with you.
Into the
I
microwave.
use a good amount of frozen vegetables too. I can actually see this starting to get thick around the edges a little bit. See that little bit of thickness
Oh,
there?
I do.
See. Getting a little bit thick, so we're pretty close.
And I see the potatoes are starting to boil.
Yeah. I'm putting a fork in these. These are not quite fork tender. The fork is going in, but you do need a little bit more. They're still a little hard. A few more minutes and we'll be ready. So let's check our potatoes once more. And you can see when I stick the fork in, they tend to fall apart, and that's what we're looking for.
And it doesn't matter if the skin falls off.
Nope.
Because it's going to end up in the pot anyway.
When it gets mixed up in the pot or in the mixer, it's all going to fall apart anyway. So, good? All right. We'll drain our potatoes. All right. This is the most fun part coming up next. We're going to take these, we're going to put it in our mixer bowl. Now, how do you like to mash your potatoes, Tracy?
I just have a hand mixer.
Hand mixer, okay, that's good.
I tried a stick blender one time, but the skin kept getting stuck in the tiny little blades.
I can see that. So we've got our potatoes in here. Alright, now I'm just going to start it on low. I think everyone knows how to mash potatoes. A little bit. Now you can adjust as much soy milk as you like to get the creamy texture that you like. And I start adding it until it starts holding together. I think on the recipe that I posted on the website, I had about a cup of soy milk. Alright, should we give it a taste? Now you can salt it if you like, or salt at the table.
And when I'm making potatoes, I always like to use the unsweetened almond milk.
Oh, good. It's going to be hot, obviously. Mmm. Creamy?
Very creamy.
Good. All right.
I think we're ready.
All right, let's plate up our meal. So we have cooked up 3 pounds of russet potatoes and added some soy milk. Mixed it till it's nice and creamy. How about if you put some beautiful mushroom gravy on there?
This gravy just looks wonderful. It thickens so nicely with that cornstarch.
Nice and silky. Look at that. Oh. Beautiful.
That looks fabulous.
Well, I think we should try it, don't you?
I do.
Here,
Thanks.
let's have a taste. Talk about comfort food. To me, this is the ultimate. Mashed potatoes. I'm going to put a couple green beans on there.
Mmm. Delicious. Thanks so much for sharing this recipe with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
I think I'm going to go home and try that.
Good.